Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I am Steve Smith. For anybody who's new here, just stumbling by, maybe welcome. It's good to have you. Hope you enjoy it and get something out of it. This is the Thinking Preppers channel. Just to warn you, I say that I have the smartest commenters and viewers in YouTube land, and that's the truth. If you like that, you'll like us. This isn't a channel where we jump up and down and scream and holler and tell you the latest thing that you need to be terrified of today, but we discuss what you should really be thinking about, concerned with, and what you should do. It's kind of a checklist of what's going on and what we should do about it. Hey, it's going to get up to close to 100 degrees today. It's time for a good hot cup of coffee, right? If you haven't gotten yours yet, go ahead, put me on pause and go get yours. I've gotten so many comments from people and messages from people who say, messages over on the Patreon channel, who say, I love it when I see that a video of yours has come up. I go and get my cup of coffee and sit down to drink my coffee with you while I watch it. I think that's great. That's real community. So let's have a sip together before we get started. Okay. What if the war starts tomorrow? That's today's topic, and I want to get into that. I want to tell you a couple of things beforehand for our people. Spent all yesterday printing and sending out t-shirts. A couple of things that I did want to say. There have been some people who ordered both books and t-shirts, and when they get sent out, realize you're gonna get your t-shirt first, because t-shirts are sent out first class mail, which goes pretty quick. Your books are sent out media mail, which is fourth class. It's slow, so it takes, I don't know, anywhere from 5 days to a week or something like it. Kind of depends on where you are, but they will go slow. So if you've ordered both and your t-shirt shows up and you go, wow, this is great, but where are my books? Well, they're coming. The post office has them somewhere, but they're on the way. That will give me a chance also to tell you, for the new people, hey, if you haven't bought the books yet, I'm going to read a couple of comments from people like you, fellow commenters, fellow subscribers, to tell you why you should. And we're talking about my series, the Stonemont series. Going to be talking about this when we get into Are You Ready for the War? To start tomorrow. The Stonemont series, it is available on Amazon and through our website, stonemont.us, as are the t-shirts. Yes, I am wearing one of the this is the Stonemont Where Life is Good Pine Tree t-shirt in what they got, sand. Yeah, that's one of them. You can see all the rest of them on the website. Okay, I would have read this comment even if, I think I would have, I don't know. I think I would have read this even if the comment hadn't been great, just because of the name of the person it came from, which is Wiggle Butt Farm. I mean, how do you get a better name than that, right? Wiggle Butt Farm. So I won't call you Wiggle Butt because I don't know exactly who you are, and that might be inappropriate, but the name Wiggle Butt Farm, it just, as I'm sure with you all, it brings up all sorts of mental imagery, right? Wigglebutt Farm says, almost finished with the reversion. I just got this comment yesterday. Almost finished with the reversion. That's the first book. What's the version, Steve? It's the first book of the 6-book series. Yep, working on number 7. What an awesome story. It reads so easily, yet engulfs the mind with such critical thinking. I am so glad I ordered the entire set and can't wait to see what happens next. Thank you, Steve. Well, thank you, Wigglebutt. And I tell you what, I am going to remember your handle for a long time, and I appreciate it. And right now somebody is saying, how he's just talking about his books. Why is it? Because I'm a writer, guys. If you don't know me, I'm a writer. I own a preparedness business. This is what I do, and so I wrote books for people to learn from. and I want people to get them. And here's why. Here's why. We got another one. This is from MW. Go Stonemont. He says, Steve, or she, I don't know. I just have a lot of women viewers and readers, and that is so great. It says, Go Stonemont. Steve, I finally began reading your first book, The Reversion. Spokesmodel. The Reversion, right? I wished I had started a couple years earlier. That's right. I get so often people say, I finally broke down and got your book. I wished I'd done it before. So if you haven't, here's your fellow compatriots telling you it's time. Wished I had started a couple years earlier. What I love about the book so far is you get into the action right away. The scenario unfolds quickly, and the way you describe in detail all of the prepping tactics from the beginning is something I really enjoy and appreciate. All with no sacrifice of character development or storytelling. The introduction scene with the judge's family really choked me up. So much more I could write. Suffice it to say, I can't get through a chapter or sometimes even a paragraph without taking prepping notes and reviewing my own system of preparation. Thank you so much. I look forward to finishing The Reversion today and buying the next book. I'll tell you something that it doesn't have, guys. It's got, and like I say, I wrote these books as a complete plan on how to prepare for, how to survive, and how to rebuild after a total collapse, whatever that collapse may be. I could make videos for 20 years and not get to all the things I've already covered in detail in these. They've been out, the first one came out in 2017. Hundreds of thousands of people around the world have been learning from these books for years. And if you haven't got them, you really need to if you're serious. Or if you just want a good story. Maybe you like fiction, maybe you like prepper fiction. But what I was going to say, they have all of the preparedness lessons. Not just preparedness, but well, preparedness, survival. It's about justice. It's about community. It's about family. And while it has all of the good stuff, I'll tell you what it does not have. It does not have profanity. I remember one of the first reviews that I ever got out of it, and it meant a lot to me. Joe Fox over at Viking Preparedness, he had gotten a hold of it and he'd read it, and so he did a review on it and it was a great review. And one of the first things he said, which I was so glad that he picked up, because it's important to me. He says, I don't think I've read a profane word in this book. I think there might be a couple, actually. But that's the thing. I wrote it for families. So many families have read these books as family reading and things, and that's what I want. My 13-year-old son is reading it right now himself. Okay, all that was important for the person who thinks that it wasn't, so goodbye. But the main topic today is, what if the war started tomorrow? Are you ready? Are you prepared? What would your life look like? Okay. We know that they're trying to scare us all over the place. If you read the news, and I don't go deep into the news, I can tell by the headlines what they're trying to get me to believe, right? And and probably so can you. Or if I skim through all of the YouTube channels and I see, what they're trying to terrify everybody with today, I understand, because that gets clicks. It's the old, if it bleeds, it leads from the newspaper business. It has to be exciting. It has to be the latest thing that you should be scared of. And it's coming, and it's coming, and it's coming. Well, yeah, it is coming. I don't know when, I know because it's always coming, in one way or another. This is what preparedness is about. But what if it starts tomorrow morning? Do you remember the morning of September 11th, 2001? I remember I was at work, and we heard, and you probably remember too, and we heard about the first plane hitting the tower. Wow, what a horrible accident, right? Then we heard about the second one, and most of us who think knew what was going on. Well, my first thought, I got to go top off my tank, right? And thinking people did. Because later in the day, gas went from, I don't know, $1 something. I don't remember what it was back then, $1 something probably, to at one local station over $6 a gallon. And then people were running out of gas. Stores were flooded with people. When the idea of what might have happened started to settle into people's minds, some froze. There were some that said, whatever, I don't pay attention. I have sports to watch, or I have video games to play. The people who were kind of keeping up on it and were then beginning to devour the news 24/7. That is really when this 24/7. It's not the first time. I mean, we've had things before that, the first Gulf War, that just spins people up and keeps them going and keeps them, keep that adrenaline, that negativity rush, that they need. Keep them going. Because that's news. Have you ever noticed? I know you have. Fox News, everything is an alert. There's no just normal news, right? It's an alert. Special alert. They have the big banner, and the person even says it. It's probably in their contract. They have to say, special alert. Did you know that the news didn't used to be like that? You younger people, no. Adults used to just come on and kind of, spout the latest propaganda. It sounded like news. It was propaganda, but at least it sounded like news. Everything wasn't alert. I remember when Kennedy was assassinated. It actually was an alert. Yeah. When, the 68 riots and Bobby Kennedy got assassinated, Martin Luther King, those kinds of things. Those were alerts because they had national consequence, and they were a lot different than everything else going along, right? Those were alerts. Other than that, it was news. I remember the Vietnam days, and they always gave the body counts. How many Americans had been killed, how many Vietnamese they had claimed were killed. But nowadays it's different. They've got to keep you scared, and they got to keep you coming back. It's just like the dealer, It's just gotta give you enough, just give you enough, give you a taste, not to last you a long time. But you need some more, and the more you take, the more you need to keep that high, right? Well, I know that most of you aren't like that here, but that's what I see when I watch the news or a lot of other channels. Everything is just, I mean, it's really negative. It has a negative effect on people to be that spun up on things. However, it is important to look at it realistically and to, while not being frightened, have the proper concern and the proper focus for being able to deal with it. So think back, for those of you who were cognizant back then at September 11th and remember what happened. Gas just zoomed up. Stores ran out of stuff. Gas stations ran out of gas. They shut down air travel, right? And then they started putting in all the Patriot Act, right? What do you think's going to happen when the war starts? And do I believe that a war is really going to start? All this BS going on between, and I'm not going to get into this too much because that's not the purpose here. This stuff is going on between Putin and Wagner and Ukraine and Belarus and all of that. All of this is being shoveled out into the news for their purposes, the purposes that they want, us to believe. Okay, who? Some is Putin, some is Ukraine. Most is our government. Most of our government. So did I believe that Wagner was going to go into Moscow? No. No. Russians think differently than Americans. A lot differently. I don't claim to know exactly how Russians think, but I have a little bit of understanding. I'll just say that. Just a little bit. Okay. And they think differently. They play chess while our leaders are playing hopscotch. But our leaders use it to their advantage. At least they're smart enough. Our so-called leaders. I shouldn't call them leaders. Our hoes, the holders of office. Our hoes are smart enough to at least know how stupid the American people are, for the most part, the voters. And so they can use this stuff, right? They can use this to, build up the call for war like little Mr. South Carolina does. Or stumbles and mumbles. I got a great cup. I got a great mug coming out for American Reversion on that. But they know how to try to get the American people going. Okay, so anyway, that's. I'll get back to what if the war starts tomorrow, because we don't know. We don't know. Something's going to pop off because they want it to. Are you in shape? Are you in good shape if the war starts tomorrow? Are you have everything that you need? Will exploding gas prices affect you? Will food shortages affect you? Will increased inflation affect you? Or should I say rising prices affect you? Because that's not really, rising prices are the result of inflation. They're not inflation. I said not too long ago, well, maybe a month, maybe more, I said that I was seeing some shortages in the grocery stores that hadn't been short for a while. Back when all the shortages were going on. Okay, we saw a lot of shortages, right? And then everything was back to, somewhat normal after they had all increased 100% in price. But then they were back for everybody to buy at 100% more than they had paid before, right? Okay. Solution. Now I was seeing some thin shelves again, and some things that just weren't being delivered, and that started me thinking. I said, okay, let me check my stores, see if I'm thin on anything, and if I am, let me go fix it. That's what you need to be doing right now. Now, if the war starts tomorrow, or this afternoon, whenever it starts, everything is going to go nuts. Everything. It's going to go nuts because so many people are tied into the news all the time. So the world around you is going to get chaotic. Fuel prices are going to skyrocket. Food prices are going to, they've already skyrocketed, so maybe they'll just mini skyrocket. But they will go up. There may be shortages, whether real or contrived. But there will be shortages because it's easy to blame shortages on a war. Like tires, and nylons during World War II. People will get used to it. And then they'll be able to come back, again, having doubled or tripled the price of those things. Or maybe giving out coupons like they did back in World War II. I have a coupon book, a ration book, a couple of ration books that my mother kept from World War II. It's very interesting. But they will use it to further control the American people, to get us used to shortages. And then when they're available, to get us used to or thankful for the that at least we can get them, even though it costs 2 or 3 times more than it used to. Thankful. I'm so happy I can get sugar again. I'm so happy I can get the kind of tires that I need. There's probably going to be shortages on everything from OTC drugs to clothing that comes from China, because it will all work together. There will be more restrictions put on us here, because after all, everybody is, remember that see something, say something? Watch your neighbor. Watch your neighbor. So reminding the entire country that in case you've forgotten, you're supposed to be the government snitch on your next door neighbor, right? Or your brother. Don't worry if my brother's watching this. You know me better than that. And I know you better than that. Shortages, control, increased prices. That's what would be coming. And then, depending on what kind of war it is, maybe conscription. What's that? The draft. I'm not sure at what point that might come. I haven't given that a lot of thought. I've simply thought enough that they ain't getting my kids. At what point that might come? You know why they're going to have to go to a draft if they have a war? Because of the quality, or the lack of quality, that they're getting to join the military now. Simple as that. Now, I don't want to detract from the guys who join an all-volunteer force. I don't want to detract from that at all. There are some exceptional people in the military. I know a bunch of them. I have a lot of friends who are in the military and top-notch guys. I also know a lot of people that went in the military because they weren't doing too well out here in the world. Let's just be honest, okay? Let's be honest with this stuff. I know a lot of cops who went in because they weren't doing too well and nobody had ever paid attention to them, and so they wanted to be important and they joined the cops, and now I got a badge and a gun and now people have to pay attention to me, right? There's too many of them out there like that. And there are a lot of great guys still on the job. By the same token, a lot of great guys in the military, a lot of people in the military because they couldn't do too well out here in the world. And when they get out of the military, they don't do too well. So let's just stay honest about this stuff, shall we? But they're going to have to go to a draft, because when you draft, you spread a wider net. And they're getting such poor recruits now. The quality of their recruits, I mean, they're hurting. I don't remember what the numbers were. Doesn't matter, but so many can't. They're having to lower their standards so much just to get close to their quotas, and they're not meeting their quotas and haven't for years. I think the Marines were the only ones that usually made their quotas for the last 20 years. I could be wrong, but 20 years ago, Marine recruiters were telling me, yeah, we're the only ones, and armies were telling me, no, we're not making our quotas, and now it's kind of the same thing. So, yeah, if I'm wrong about a couple of years in there, mucho apologies, right? But if they get into a big push, or if they just want to, it's not that they would need the people, it's that they want the control. They want the control over the people again, and what better way than to reinstitute the draft? Okay? Because the more people from a wider selection of society that they get in the military, the more people out here now have sons and daughters in the military who now care about what's going on, right? What is the what are the figures now? I have heard, I don't know whether this is true or not. Figures get thrown out there that only 1% of the people have ever of the population has ever served in the military, and probably something like that, maybe less, I don't know, in law enforcement. Well, that means that most people don't really have a concept about it and don't care about it. If you need people to care about it, what do you need to do? You need to get more people that they care about in the situation that they care about. So let's reinstitute the draft. Is that something that could happen? Yeah, I think it could. I think it could. And here again, not that they necessarily need them. Now they needed them for Vietnam because they needed the fodder. Yeah. They would need a draft now in order to bring the population in under their control by making them care. Okay. So how about that? Are you ready for that? There's a lot of other things. I probably talked for 3 or 4 hours on this about all the things that war would mean. It would mean would our situation at the border become better or worse? Well, first off, you would think that it would be better because they would be more apt to secure the border. But we already know that they have thousands of military age people coming through, you know, and not all. Who was it? Kennedy was talking about. Robert Kennedy. He's going to be an interesting person to watch in this race. He was down at the border and he was talking about how few of them coming across the border were from Mexico. He said that time he was at a border station, I think a couple were from Guatemala. I think I put this stuff up over on American Reversion. He said a bunch from China, military age males, a bunch from Africa, a bunch from some from Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, these things. These are the people that they're letting in now. Why are they letting them in? Okay, I know that other people have talked about that and you've thought about it. Just remind yourself that. If war starts tomorrow, is the border going to close or is it going to completely open up because there is so much national pressure on us now? Either way it could go. Either way, you have to be prepared for it. So like I always say, all of these things, use them as a drill. Use them to tighten up, to check yourself. It should be a checklist. Go through. You know, some people have whole books about, you know, some of you may be going down in your bunker right now and going, okay, check, 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 good shape. Some are going to say, check, check, oops, so low on that, right? Well, you better fix it quickly. Others, some of you are just starting. Good for you. I mean, that's better than not starting, okay? Just because you don't have 7 years of food, hey, you've got what you've got, now continue to build. Think about this. If war starts tomorrow, all the things that could happen, how would it affect you? And you might throw in about your job. How would it affect your job? Would you be able to, if travel is restricted, which it could be, how would that affect you? Because that's another thing to take into consideration. So think about that. Some of you are going to have some good ideas. If you're not with us on Patreon, by the way, I do welcome you, invite you to come over to Patreon, because this is the kind of thing that brings out, we got a lot of smart people on the Patreon channel. And so after I get done talking, then one of the best things to do is start reading the comments, because there are a lot of experienced people. And you'll be able to learn from them too, or maybe you'll be able to contribute, or maybe you'll be able to ask a question. That's the place to ask the questions on Patreon. I got a message from somebody here say I asked a question on something way back. Did you see it? I'm sorry, I don't know. I get so many comments and questions, I don't really have time to go like that. But if you're on Patreon, you can send me a message. So think about it. It's up to you. Preparedness is always up to you. But in order to be prepared, you have to first think about what are the possibilities. You know, what are the potential threats? This one, think about you getting up in the morning and the news says, war has started. How are you set? Are you ready? Are you not ready? Get ready if you're not. Again, to bring it up, to bring this to a close, remember that this, as all of my videos, are brought to you by the Stonemont series. If you haven't gotten them, you should. And if you're saying, I don't know, maybe one of these days, when you finally get around to it, you're going to write me and say, oh, Steve, I wished I'd started sooner. I wished I'd started sooner so I could be on the third or fourth time reading through the whole series, because I keep learning. See, we have people say this all the time. I keep learning more every time I read the books. So they're available on Amazon. I got something crawling on Amazon. The link's down below. You can get them over on Amazon on either paperback or Kindle, or you can get them from me signed. I had somebody ask me that. I thought it would be more if you autographed them, but it only charged me $15. Now, yeah, that's right. $15 through our website. That includes your shipping and handling and me signing it and putting a coffee stain on the front page if you'd like me to. So order them from stonemont.us, and yes, also the t-shirts are all over there, and mugs are coming. You're gonna like the mugs. So remember, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, whether there is a war or not. So double check, run it through your head. Am I prepared? Am I well enough prepared so that I can live well tomorrow? That's the place to start. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.